Hello. Hey, y'all. All right, so I'm so excited that I get to be here with you tonight and for a whole bunch of nights after this. All right, so what are we talking about today? Anybody know? Sticking together. And sticking together how? What have you been talking about for the last couple of weeks? Friendships. So I have a question for you. What do you think is the glue that holds friendships together? Understanding, trust, love, Jesus. All right, has anybody been in the early service? Any of them? 8:15, 9:30, or 11? What have we been talking about? Hmm. Hmm. Give me a second. Your second is up. What have we been talking about, adults? Love. All right. And so I wasn't planning to go here, but I am. So 1 Corinthians 13. Anybody ever heard of it? Called the love chapter. What is love? What is love? Somebody tell me what love is. Anybody know? Yes. Say it louder. Something that you give someone unconditionally. Anybody else? Yes. Affection that you give to other humans. Yes. The connection that you make with somebody. All right. Anybody else? You know the verse. All right. So maybe with some characteristics of love. All right, I'm going to go to 1 Corinthians 13 because a lot of times when we think of love, we think of all the feelings and all the things. But in 1 Corinthians 13, Paul has some things to say about love. And I really do think that love is the glue that holds us together. And when I read these verses, I want you to think about love and friendship. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. Love is not irritable. Love keeps no records of wrong. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but love rejoices in the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends or fails. Love never ends. Can you see why that might be the basis of a good friendship? Yeah, why do you think that? Talk to me, talk back to me. Why do you think it matters to have love in the middle of friendship? This kind of love, patient, kind. Yeah, it's good to be nice to others and not mean to them. Mariella. Because friendship goes through change. Y'all ever had a good friend that got on your absolute last nerve? You ever had that happen? Right? You know, if it's somebody next to you, don't say it. Just wink, like wink and let me see all of these winkings. Yes, you're like, I'll say it. They get on my, right? But you remain friends even through disagreement because there's something about each other, maybe the patience, the kindness, the looking out for the best of each other that says, even though we may disagree, it's important enough for me to have some stick-to-itness. And in this age where we get likes and friends on social media that aren't real, right? How many of you have lots of friends on social media? Some that you've never even met, right? And it's like, these are my friends, but not really. So today we're going to go to a scripture in Acts. Can we put that one up? The scripture in Acts. And it says, after some time, Paul said to Barnabas, who's Paul? Who knows who Paul is? Okay. Anybody ever heard of Barnabas? All right, so let's just see. After some time, Paul said to Barnabas, let's go back and visit each city where we previously preached the word of the Lord to see how the new believers are doing. Barnabas agreed and wanted to take along John Mark. But Paul disagreed strongly since John Mark had deserted them in Pamphylia and had not continued with them in their work. Their disagreement was so sharp that they separated. Barnabas took John Mark with him and sailed to Cyprus. Paul chose Silas, and as he left, the believers entrusted him to the Lord's gracious care. Then he traveled throughout Syria and Cilicia, strengthening the churches there. Somebody tell me what just happened. Tell me. They did what? Okay, it looks like they stopped being friends. Why? What happened? It sounds like somebody made a bad choice to leave someone else behind. Anybody else? If you summarize this story for me, come on. I think they only gave me a couple minutes, so y'all got to get with it. Come on. What's happening? Yes. They had a disagreement, so they broke off separately. What was the disagreement over? First of all, where were they going? What were they going to go do? Were they just going to hang out? They were going to hang together to do what? To help churches. He said, let's go see about all the churches that we've encouraged. And by the way, the name Barnabas means the encourager. And let's go check on all of these churches, which meant they had done some things together. And so then what happens? What happens? They say, Paul says, let's go together. Barnabas, come on. And so then what happens? What does Barnabas say? You didn't think I was going to ask you questions, did you? Did you know I used to be a teacher? That means I want to know if you're paying attention. Barnabas said, hey, let's take John Mark. Let's take John Mark along. And what did Paul then say? Nope. Why did he say nope? He said because he was a deserter. He left us before. We're not taking that dude with us. And so then what happens? They go their own way. Do you think Paul and Barnabas were friends? How many of you say yes? All right. How many of you say no? Okay. So does anybody know who Paul was in this story before he was Paul? He had another name. His name was Saul. Saul. So before Paul was Paul, his name was Saul. And he was not a friend to the churches. In fact, Saul went around and he persecuted Christians because he thought that Christians were not in the right. He thought they were in the wrong. And he thought that he was being a very good Jewish person, faithful to his religion. He persecuted the Christians. And then do you know what happened to Saul? How did he become Paul? Anybody know? Who changed his name? God changed his name to Paul. Do you know why? Something happened. Yes. Yes, he had a whole experience with God on a road called Damascus. Say Damascus. And he was blinded and he had an experience with God, and God spoke to him and let him know that even though he thought he was on the right path, he wasn't. And God wanted to bring him along to help actually strengthen the Christian churches, not persecute them. But this happened after he had a profound experience with God. Now, His name was Saul. Now it's Paul. He's hanging out with some people, but he used to persecute and try to, fight Christians. What do you think the Christians are thinking? They're like, nah, we don't want anything to do with this dude. And so when he tries to come around to some of the other disciples, some of them, probably not the 12, we'll just say some other ones, there are some disciples, some followers of Jesus who say, this guy is not for real. We remember who he was, and they plotted to kill him. And it kind of makes sense because he used to come against them and they were afraid. And so guess who was the one that said, no, we really need to take him in because I know his whole story and it's a beautiful story. Guess who that was? It wasn't John Mark. It was Barnabas. So Barnabas was the one when Saul, who became Paul, was feared by everybody, went and told all the disciples and friends, no, y'all, this guy, we really need to take him in because he's legit. I saw a hand over there. You don't want to say? You forgot? Okay. So here we are. Paul and Barnabas go around to the churches. They are strengthening the churches. I imagine that they are friends. They're looking out for each other as they are going along their way. They endure persecution from other people, but they love each other. They have a great relationship with each other as friends. They are on a mission from God. And then one day down the line, Paul says, hey, Barnabas, all those churches that we went to, let's go and see about them. Let's go and see what it is they're up to. And then they have a huge disagreement over bringing John Mark along. And I was reading this again, and it's been a long time since I really read this story, and I thought, isn't it interesting that Barnabas is the one who gave Paul a chance? Barnabas is the one who gave Paul a chance because maybe nobody would have even liked Paul if it weren't for Barnabas. And here it is now. Barnabas, who is the encourager, wants to bring John Mark along. And we would think that because Paul has had a second chance, that he would be like, sure. But what does he say? Nope. I want you to think about friendship and not how good of a friend people are to you, but how good of a friend are you to other people? Because sometimes we think of ourselves as the good friend and everybody else just needs to grow. They just get on my nerves. But when you think about yourself, are you patient? Are you kind? Do you give people a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance? Do you think the best, knowing that if God can work in your life, God can work in their life? And this is kind of hard stuff because now I'm not talking about people who are abusing or, being mean-spirited. Not that, but friends that just mess up every now and again. How many of you have not been a good friend sometimes? Right? How many of you have sometimes been an amazing friend, the greatest ever? But how many of you think, I've got some growing to do when it comes to friendship? Have you ever had a friend and you found yourself, because maybe they did something you didn't like, you went and you talked about them and you ran them down? Have you ever done that? You're like, I'm kind of ashamed to admit, yeah, that's me. But see, here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's all of us. And we get to grow in our friendship because we get to say, God, you know what? I need help. Because it's not easy being a friend sometimes. Have you ever just been in a mood and you're just frustrated? You know, maybe some things just didn't go right and you just didn't have patience. You were not kind and you knew that you came out your mouth the wrong way. Has anybody ever done that? And so when it happens with you, you're like, you know what? I wasn't myself. I was just in a bad mood. But then when somebody else does it, we say, they're a bad person, they're awful, they're terrible, I don't even want anything to do with them anymore. But love says, I wonder what's going on in their lives. I wonder if they're having a really rough time and they need me to be a good friend. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about your friendship level. And I want you to judge it according to 1 Corinthians 13. You listening? All right. And I want you to repeat after me. And then you're going to rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. All right. Repeat after me. I am patient. I am kind. I am not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. I do not insist on my own way. I am not irritable. I keep no record of wrongs. I do not rejoice in wrongdoing. I only rejoice in the truth. I bear all things. I believe all things. I hope all things. My love never ends. All right. How many of you would have had an A+? All right. About 4 of you? Okay. All right. And we have about 40 people in here. And so we probably have about 50. So if we only counted 40, that would be, anybody know the percentage? What percentage 4 is of 40? 10%. Yes. So that means if we have 50 people, are we below 10% or above 10%? We are below 10%. So collectively, would you say we have some growing to do? Who has some growing to do? And the person that says no, that means you do not know yourself. All right. Yeah, I said it. Say it louder because I'm over 50. Right. No friendship is perfect. But bigger than a friendship being perfect, none of us in here are perfect, which means we get to grow. And actually, nobody's perfect, right? Which means no one in here. Maybe one who might be perfect. Jesus. He said me. I mean, I'm kind of close. No, kidding. I am totally not. All right. So that means we all get to grow. And if we're going to grow in our friendship, guess what that means about ourselves? We get to grow in who we are. What if, when we talk about sticking to it and being friends, we decided that I'm the one that needs to grow? Here's the other scripture. Let's put one on the board, up, the thing, the TV, the monitor. Just give me one. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. Who thinks they know what that means? Yes. Tell me. Yes. Friends will tell the truth to each other, even if it hurts, in order to help you grow. Yes, as you grow, the people around you will grow. And then as the people around you grow, guess what happens? You grow. Have you ever been around somebody that was like, encouraged you to be a better person? And if you're never around those people, you need to get those people in your life. Iron cannot sharpen itself by itself. You need other iron to grow.